So what does Jeff Bezos, why does he get a $500 million yacht? Now, this is not an existential question like, why do some people have so much and some people have so little? I want to actually ask, why has the international community allowed him to have this yacht? Take a look at this. This is the yacht of an American oligarch, you guys. This is the Amazon founder's 127-meter yacht, but don't worry, it's not being seized by international governments. It's just being moved into the great beyond so that Bezos can enjoy it. You may recall that he had a fight with the city of Rotterdam because the yacht was so big that he needed to dismantle a historic bridge to get it out launched. And the people of Rotterdam revolted and said, no, you're not destroying our bridge for your yacht. And so he had to sort of work around it. It was a hardship.
There are a bunch of people in Rotterdam that are big Redacted viewers. By the way, we got to meet them a few weeks ago in Rotterdam, and they came up to us. So, we got to see that bridge, and it was a beautiful old bridge. And I don't know, but the idea that an oligarch could come in and say, we're gonna take apart this bridge, this historic bridge, because I want to move my yacht through it. Can you imagine? Like, we're going to take apart the Brooklyn Bridge so I can move my yacht.
I cannot imagine the egotism that allows you to even make that request.
Yeah.
Now, why is his yacht not being seized in international waters? Because he's American. Because he is not a Russian oligarch. He's an American oligarch. Unlike this poor fool who owns this 120 million yacht that was seized in Antigua. The owner is Andrei Grigorievich Guryev, a Russian phosphates magnate who dared to own a yacht while being Russian. I'm not really calling him a fool. I just want to make that clear. Since this was sanctioned by the U.S., the people of Antigua and Barbuda have had to pay $28,000 per week in tax money. Their tax money, this is not a rich island, you guys, to pay tax money to maintain the stationary boat, including the salary of an Italian captain at $2,000 a day in diesel to keep the air conditioning running. They can't just let it turn off because mold will spread throughout. It's humid in the Caribbean. But if the owner were American, it could sail on its merry way. What about Bill Gates? Did you know that Bill Gates owns the Four Seasons? This one kind of slipped past me. He's owned the Four Seasons since 2007. I did not know that. How come he gets all of these luxury hotels around the world that are not seized? In fact, last year, in addition to all the farmland, he also bought up a historic building in Rome called the Palazzo Marini. Take a look at that. It's lovely. It's right near the Spanish Steps, so prime real estate location. He says it's a fixer-upper, but still, how come he gets that? This is the question that former NATO analyst Jacques Bode asks in his book Operation Z about the conflict in Ukraine. He says the invasions, illegal and illegitimate, of Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, and Syria by Western countries have given rise to neither sanctions nor condemnations. Disabled Americans or Polish athletes are not deprived of Paralympic Games. British cats not excluded from cat shows. Polish, German, American, British, French, or Lithuanian weightlifters not convicted for crimes they did not personally commit. British, American, or Swiss tennis players not forced to condemn their governments or participate in order to participate in a tournament. Chopin's Polonaise did not become Iraqis, and the atrocities of the Polish military were not condemned. While the Russian operation, it seems suddenly that the West has created a consciousness, but which functions, as we will see, in a very selective and variable geometric way. Good question, right? So let's keep those people in mind, because I think it's a foregone conclusion. We know if you are American, your country is currently occupying Syria, has occupied Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Somalia. We can go on, right? But let's just for now, because this is the most, I would say it's the biggest occupation currently, is the occupation of Syria. We've had Kevork Almassian, who showed you the maps just last week. So, okay, we are occupiers right now. It's incontrovertible. And in fact, Syria has just asked the United Nations for help, not that they will. So by this rationale that Russia invaded Ukraine, right, then Westerners should be sanctioned too for our current occupation of Syria. So then if you're American, you have an American passport, you shouldn't own a car. You better not own anything internationally, right? By this rationale, it should be seized by the international community, because we have all agreed that we should punish citizens for what their government does. Now, incidentally, the idea behind this is that these oligarchs will rise up and turn against their government, and it will bring down the fall of Putin. That has not been the case. In fact, these oligarchs have felt even more, by and large, more empowered to make this sacrifice by their country, by most reports. And I think it's worth saying that American occupation of Syria is an occupation. Russia occupation of Ukraine is not. They were asked to come into that place under Article 51 of the United Nations Treaty, which allows self-defense as an exception to the prohibition against the use of force, because Ukraine had ordered an attack on those people. So it's not the same, but let's pretend that it is. And then talk about like who gets punished internationally and who doesn't. So look at this. This week, Epic Games refused to pay 2 Fortnite champions because they were Russian. The 2 young men posted their communication from Epic Games telling them they could not claim the $200,000 cash prize because they come from a prize restricted region. But they don't live in Russia. They were playing from Belarus, which is not a prize restricted region. And one of them holds a bank account in Kazakhstan, which is not one either. Fortnite doesn't seem to care, even though the boys say, one of them's 17, so I will call them boys. They spent their own money to enter. It was expensive for them to get visas. It's expensive for them to train and, have the equipment to be such good Fortnite players. This is their dream. They should have been told at the outset that they couldn't win. Before they put forth all of this effort.
Like you can't enter because you're in a restricted zone. So, you're going to win $200,000. Sorry, you don't get to keep that money.
They're kids, right? They're kids who are playing a game. What is the purpose of not giving them their money?
It's ridiculous. I mean, to me, it's outrageous that these kids. You're basically blaming these kids for your government's politics. You're basically saying that these kids have anything to do with the government's politics. Even the damn Olympic Committee has been walking back their overreaction to everything on allowing a path to Paris 2024 for Russian athletes. And you have the football league, which is now allowing Russian athletes to participate again. Tennis is saying we're going to allow them to. So
yes, but Epic not Games, with their flag.
Oh, they can't carry their flag.
So think of, American tennis players or American golfers not allowed to play with the American flag because of what their country has done. That it's the equivalent. You cannot make an argument that Tiger Woods shouldn't be able to play with his flag, but I'm sorry, I don't know any Russian golfers. Do you?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay.
No, you put me on the spot.
Sorry.
I know a lot of golfers, but I can't think of a Russian one off the top.
But yes, we would never do this to America, right? So why do we agree to do it to Russian, not even people, things? Like last year during the European Tree of the Year competition, a tree was banned because it was planted by Ivan Turgenev nearly 200 years ago. We sure showed that tree and dead novelist.
Can't call it a Russian oak anymore.
Is the idea that that this novelist is going to somehow overthrow Putin?
Yes, right. From the grave
for 200 years. Go haunt Putin until he gets out of Ukraine, and we'll acknowledge your tree.
Right.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Oh, someone in the chat, Ollie Fox, says Fortnite took their entry fee. No problem. So Epic Games was glad to take their entry fee. No problem.
That's a good point.
By the way, side note, today it was announced this afternoon, Bloomberg reported that Epic Games is now having to lay off 16% of its staff. Go woke, go broke. Is this like a woke move that's driving people away from Epic Games? 870 employees were canned today by Epic Games.
Maybe they just can't. Maybe they made those kids win so they didn't have to pay this out.
Right. They're like, 200,000? Okay, well.
Give it to the Russians.
We'll just give you.
And then we'll pretend we can't. Okay. Now look at the dogs. They really stick it to those Russian dogs. This dog competition bans these breeders because they had Russian owners who dared to want to put their own flag on their dogs. You can recognize the hypocrisy and the absurdity here. I hope I shouldn't have to go into it.
But by this account, further. I mean, Americans wouldn't be allowed to compete in anything. The amount of occupations that the United States is currently involved with illegally. I mean, Syria has been asking the United Nations. This is an illegal occupation of Syria. The United States is illegally occupying Syria, stealing its oil.
Yeah.
As the Cradle reports, over 80% of daily output of Syrians' oil is stolen by the United States. So by that measure, Americans shouldn't be allowed to participate in anything.
Yeah.
Epic Games, anybody who was an American who participated in your Fortnite Championship series, kick them out. They're in a restricted zone.
Yeah.
Can't take those prize monies home.
These little 5K races that I like to not win.
You're not going to be able to do it.
I shouldn't be allowed.
Not going to be able to do it.
Not going to work here anymore. So again, what we were saying is that we should have learned this from the Japanese internment camps. You don't punish people for what you think of any government. Just today, the Union of European Football Association says that they will readmit Russian junior teams to international events, but they cannot fly their country's flag, and they will not be allowed to play the national anthem. So, again, I guess while I feel this way, I should not try and win those 5Ks that I don't even come any close to.
No,
I should not enter our dog Grover in any competitions until my country gets out of Syria.
Yeah, or all the other places we're occupying and the 900 military bases that we have around the world. Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.